Welcome in to the Daily Dime, talking NBA today, maybe some NFL picks once again. We brought up some on yesterday's show. Some of them, by the way, have already moved. Like Zacchaeus has gone up a few yards. Damien Brown has gone up 5 full yards. I think P. Ryan went up a yard. So already getting some positive movement there. We'll talk some more. And make sure your guys are getting in on those because, as you can see, they're going to move pretty quickly, but also have a lot of NBA picks we really like tonight, Zach.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, maybe 22 minutes behind when you posted that 6-pick entry in the chat. And when I got it in, and 2 of those 6 had already moved. So again, our subscribers getting that with the tags, getting those in before these lines move. That's what you like to see, especially over the long term, right? And like, again, over the long term, I talked about some familiar names on yesterday's stream. We're going to be going right back to some of those. And man, it wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have hit every single pick that we gave out yesterday, but that Amin Thompson, that 10th rebound last night would have put a bigger number in my account than we started yesterday with, but still got a couple to come through with the fantasy point props given out in the chat yesterday afternoon. And excited to get into this one. A slimmed down slate, just 5 games here on Thursday.
Yeah, and so shout out to Underdog that they've actually posted a bunch of NBA plays already, including lots of stocks, steals, blocks. So we got lots to choose from today, Zach, but where do you want to start?
Let's just go to the old reliable here. And again, I know it just came up short last night, but Amin Thompson, who I will now be referring to by his middle name, which is Excellency. I learned that this morning, and it is just 4 letters, XLNC. Him and Osser, we're actually going to get a little Excellency pairing here tonight. So His Excellency Amin Thompson, double-double. Not what we got it at last night, which I believe was 1.17, but still 1.13 here today. And we actually do have a stronger projection for Amin in terms of his rebounds tonight than we did yesterday against Denver. And man, when Jokic was ruled out, that late scratch right before the game tipped off, I thought that would be great news for Amin. And he started off so slow and then grabbed 6 boards in like 12 minutes in the second half and gets stuck on 9, loses time in the blowout. I'm going right back here today. They're taking on the Kings on the second end of a back-to-back. So I think we will probably get another Tari Eason doubtful tag. If Tari shows up questionable, I'm still not overly concerned because we've seen Tari be questionable for multiple weeks and still not play. Rockets 4.5-point dogs here, 226.5 implied total. We've got Amin projected for north of 14 points, 10 boards. All of the same reasoning I gave yesterday, all of the game log watching I went through yesterday with Amin still applies here. I'm going back to it. I'm not worried about the 9 rebound, performance last night. I think this is still extremely, extremely strong.
Yeah, we've been on this for probably a couple of weeks now, and basically not necessarily going against the model, but basically saying, look, the model just hasn't caught up yet to his massive rebound rate, and it will. And we're starting to see that even after a 9 rebound game, now we finally see him crest that 10 rebound mark in the projection. So I think it's not done going up. I think it's going to continue to go up, and the projection for his rebounds is going to settle somewhere between 10.5 and 11. In which case, this double-double number is just continuously really, really strong as long as we're getting this boost. So in once again on this one.
Yeah, I mean, and if it weren't for the blowout last night, he was on pace for 39.5 minutes. So again, very strong minutes projection, 38 here on Amin this morning. And do we want to stick here on Houston? Because we've got another Houston pick. We've got his brother in Detroit. Let's just go to Cam Whitmore again, because I think this one is even stronger than Amin Thompson, as long as Tari Eason sits out. And again, pretty much the exact same reasoning as yesterday, where it is an overwhelming amount of games where Cam Whitmore has played just 12 or more minutes and has gone over this number. We've got him projected right around 12.5 points here today. He hit this one with ease last night in the blowout over the shorthanded Nuggets. Should still play between 18 and 22, 23 minutes here tonight. And his track record in, again, just about a season and a half here in the league, points to a very strong, higher than 10.5 point selection being the right one here. And again, like I mentioned, if I have to choose between one of these two, I would lean towards Whitmore, but these are 2 building blocks for me once again.
It was hilarious that one of the things we pointed to yesterday with Whitmore is that he's been very close to exactly like 2/3 of a point per minute played.
Yeah.
He had 16 points in 24 minutes, right on that pace yesterday. I think we're going to continue to just see him score at this rate, in which case this number significantly too low, at least a point and a half too low. So very much on this one again. And I'm with you. I think it's even stronger than the Ahmed Thompson play.
So I see our buddy Zed in the chat here saying, any other double-double picks? Because DraftKings has a boost today for 2 or more double-doubles. So I actually have double-doubles pulled up here. I want to toss it to you, if that's all right, because I know you have a steals pick you've already got your eye on, and I can kind of peruse the board here and see if anything jumps out.
Yeah, it makes sense. By the way, both you, Zach, and Zach will find this. We'll love this. My brother is currently on the way with Chick-fil-A for me for lunch. Why? Because he lost a one-on-one bet last night. So
there you go.
Got my lunch being delivered to me.
Yeah.
The bet. So it's funny. The bet was if he beat me, I had to walk his dogs late at night.
Okay.
If I beat him by between 1 and 4 points, nothing happened. Yeah. If I beat him by 5+, my lunch gets delivered to me, and Chick-fil-A is on the way.
So a resounding victory there for the
resounding victory
contingent of that one-on-one battle.
Chris Dunn over 1.5 steals. We went to this a little bit yesterday. We went to the stocks. I really liked it last night, and it just didn't deliver. He only played 13 minutes. It was one of I think it was like the biggest blowout win in team history and one of the biggest in NBA history. It was disgusting, and there was just no need for him to do anything. It's kind of funny that you can win by 70 with as few steals as they had, but now no Kawhi gets back into the lineup. So instead of playing 13 minutes, we have him projected at 26. He's been phenomenal in the stocks department and the steals department, especially all season. And particularly when no Kawhi has been in the lineup. As I mentioned yesterday, I don't think Kawhi being in or out should affect his steals per minute much, but to this point it has. So at some point, maybe we have to think that it does have an effect. But regardless, we've got him projected at 2.04 steals. So I would like this without a multiplier at 1.1x or at 1.18x. It's right there with Cam Whitmore for me for my favorite play of the day.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And again, Kawhi out tonight. I think Chris Dunn gets back into the starting lineup here. Like, if it's Amir Coffey, I'm not shocked, but that would be a departure from what we saw Ty Lue and his staff do for the majority of the games that Kawhi has missed so far this season. So I am also a fan of going back to Dunn.
Portland also have plus 27% in the steals department versus opposing point guard. So you can't ask for much better of a matchup either.
Yeah, you were looking through. You told me the numbers right. The percent increase in the steals department there for all 5 positions is very, very strong. So steals against the Blazers is something we should file away over the next week or so. My next pick, I mentioned the excellency pairing here, Ausar Thompson. And what Underdog is giving us right now is a line of 4.5. So I'm going to take that up to 5.5, where we've got him projected for 6.05 rebounds here in 25 minutes against the Pacers. Now, it's likely to be a shorthanded Pacers team. We already know Ben Mathurin is suspended. Tyrese Halliburton is listed as questionable. I would lean, based on just Hallie's injury history, especially last season, and this line being Pistons by 1.5, I would lean that Halliburton sits right now. And I think a competitive game is what we want here for Ausar Thompson. He's over in 5 of 6 games this year when he plays 24 or more minutes on this 5.5 number, that is. And that's 1.13x on Underdog here this morning. I believe he's 5 rebounds over there on Prize Picks. But going back to his rookie year, he played 24 or more minutes in 36 of his rookie year appearances, and he was over this 5.5 rebound number in 29 of those 36 games last season. His rebound rates are right in line with what they were last year, and we just haven't seen Ausar get that run out, of course, when he was coming back from the blood clot issue. And then we know that this is a much more talented depth chart on the wing here for Detroit this year. So he's not just getting those easy 34-minute runouts as Detroit is tanking. They are very much competing for a play-in or even a playoff spot if this hot streak continues. But I really like this Ausar Thompson at the 1.13x number that we're getting, because I do think he's going to settle in here to the mid to high 20s in terms of his run with Jaden Ivey out, getting back into the starting lineup now. There is some volatility here. I like the other 3 picks that we've talked about so far a little bit more than this, but I do have him in entries this morning, especially alongside his brother for the excellency pairing. And I'm going to run that into the ground here today.
It's so good. It is so damn good. The other thing we can do here, keep it as an excellency pairing, is go instead to the over 1.5 steals at 1.17x. We have also projected for 2.1 steals. Dunn projected for 2.04. So it's almost the exact same bet as the over on Dunn here at 1.17x versus 1.18x. And one thing I'll point to here is that Indiana has not been a great steals matchup this season. In fact, they're a bad steals matchup for especially the point guard and shooting guard position. Wings, they're kind of neutral. So you get that aspect for Oster. But I also think you mentioned the fact that you expect Halliburton to sit. There are very, very few point guards who take care of the ball as well as Halliburton does. Just 1.8 turnovers per 34.6 minutes. Compare that to Nembhard, who's going to step into some ball handling duties. His usage will go up, and he's already at 1.8 per 27.8 minutes. McConnell will have more of a role, 1.6 per 19.3 minutes. So the steals matchup without Halliburton would be significantly better for Oster than it is when Halliburton is in. So I think when you account for that, as long as you're confident that Halliburton's going to sit, which it sounds like you're fairly confident, then I think I prefer the steals. If you're not that confident that Halliburton sits, I'll go rebounds.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident just because, like, where's this team going if Tyrese Halliburton is not healthy 2.5 months from now? And we saw, like, last year he played through it on the minutes limit because he was trying to get to that 65 game mark. And, like, I don't think I think that was, like, contract extension linked to his contract extension and how much money he could potentially make. So I don't think we see that this year. And again, this line, I think if he was playing, like, Ben Mathurin to me wouldn't make the Pacers dogs to the Pistons. Tyrese Halliburton sitting out alongside Mathurin missing could certainly do so. And just a note on the Pacers, Aaron Nesmith listed questionable, so we may get his return here tonight. We do have him projected in right now for Indiana. Limited role off the bench, but in nonetheless.
Yeah, we have some questions as well. I'm gonna just go ahead and put the steals in, but we'll mention that this can be rebounds as well for Oster.
Yeah.
You actually get like a very similar payout too, by the way. 1.17x on the steals, 1.13x on the over 5.5 rebounds. Have some questions in here. Preston asking Jalen Green over 23.5 points. He's been hammering this, and obviously it's been hitting. What are your thoughts on 23.5 now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to. I'm certainly not going to say take the lower than 23.5 points with the way Jalen Green has been playing. That massive 34-point game last night on the heels of a 42-point night. Again, he did that, I think, in 3 quarters. Yeah, 3 quarters last night. Sub 30 minutes, 34 points against that shorthanded Nuggets team. He's been on fire, man. Like, I don't think this type of shooting efficiency keeps up. He's over 50% from 3 over his last 5 games on, like, double-digit attempts per game. But with how shorthanded this team is right now, if we're leaning into the Amen Thompson massive minutes, we need to be doing the same for Jalen Green. So I don't hate that at all. Like, again, I think I like Whitmore and Amen double-double a little bit more than this because Jalen Green can certainly go cold, and, like, Keon Ellis on the other side. Like, we should get Malik Monk back tonight. But they do have a guy I consider to be a maybe not elite wing defender, but above average to be sure. So I like those other Rockets before I get to Jalen Green, but I don't hate that at all.
I think I'm pretty much right in line with you. What I would recommend here is, if anything, I would go to the over 29.5 at 2.2x, because what you're kind of saying here is that there's almost like a binary aspect of, does he stay hot or not? And if he does, 2.2x is fantastic at 29.5. And if he doesn't, then there's just as much of a chance he goes under the 23.5. Not just as much, but you guys kind of get the idea here, where you're saying, like, you know what, his outcomes are more binary than usual, where he's either going to stay hot and keep shooting at this volume and efficiency, or he's not. And in that case, you might as well just take the bigger bet with the bigger payout at the 2.2x. I also don't hate the 5.6x at 34.5, given how damn good and efficient he's been in the last few games. And really, it's like the last 6 He's at 34, 42, 27, 29, 33. He's made 5, 7, 4, 5, and 6 threes in that time. So the other thought is you could go to 3-pointers made. The 2.5 is at 0.87x, but the 3.5, 1.3, and then 4.5, 2.35. That might even be stronger than the 29.5 points, and like over 6.5 at 12.9x. I don't hate that either. So I think there are ways to lean into his hot streak and continue to bet on him that give you even better payouts.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And again, like this, I think if you're going to this at all, it is a minutes play. We should not count on him scoring as efficiently as he has been over his last 5 games, 55% from the field, 53 from 3. This is a 43% and 35% 3-point shooter on the season. I get to Scott's question here about Şengün in a second, but I saw we've got Latvian Capper in the chat as well. So I guess shout out to Kristaps Porzingis. And before we get to Scott's question as well, Zed was asking about double doubles. The two that pop out to me on underdog outside of the Amin Thompson one, DeAndre Ayton with Robert Williams doubtful and Donovan Clingan out, right? Duop Reith is there. Jabari Walker, they can go small. But DeAndre Ayton averages a double-double. We've got him projected for a double-double. So that one stands out. Just at the 1x multiplier, I'm fine with that. And then the other one that kind of caught my eye is Jalen Duren. We've got him projected for north of 9 rebounds, but just shy of that 10 mark. But on underdog, you get it at 1.39x. Again, Duren's minutes can also be fairly volatile, but I think you're making up for it with the 1.39x payout there. So those would be my 2 underdog double doubles. I know Zed was asking about DraftKings, but I haven't seen that double double board on the DraftKings sportsbook yet.
Yeah. So going here to Scott's question, do you guys like Şengün assists? I'll start by saying we have him projected at 4.94, 54.5% chance of going over this 4.5 number. So correct side, but at 0.928 or 0.92x, especially, it's just not quite good enough for me to be in on.
Yeah, and like if they gave us a 5.5 option, I might have some interest there, but you have to go all the way up to 6.5, which is 2.01x, and he was over that number right last night against Denver. But this is just, I don't know. It seems a little like we're almost like wish casting at that point. Like, oh, Şengün, can he do it again? And if Jokic was in last night, his stat line was probably a little bit lower or a little bit less efficient rather. Across the board. Şengün has only had 7 or more assists in 7 of his 39 appearances this year.
Yeah, so that 3.5x number just too low on that one, or 2x as well. So with you there. Do you think do we have anything else? Do we want to go to some NFL picks to turn this into a 6-pick play?
Yeah, let's go to NFL. I'll look. I haven't looked at the only steals and only blocks yet. Maybe we get lucky and get free throws or fantasy points here, but I like the 4 we've got in.
Cool. All right. So we got a number to choose from. I think where I'm going to start is reminder, the ones we gave out yesterday, Samaje Perine and Dallas Goedert. Goddard is still available at the same 36.5 number. So that continues to be my favorite one of the week. Happy to add that one. But let's also talk about 2 new ones. Mentioned yesterday, De'Ami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus for Washington. But I also think Austin Eckler over 22.5 receiving yards is really, really strong. Couple reasons for this. Number one, he's just been involved in the pass game kind of all season, and they like giving some screens and kind of design like quick stuff, let him use his yards after the catch ability. And given how often Detroit blitzes, I think that's very much in play. To that point, Detroit has really, really struggled with yards after the catch. That is Eckler's game. They have also struggled in terms of DVOA allowed in the passing game to running backs. That is Eckler's music. So all signs pointing to Austin Eckler here. And I think the 22.5 number, just too low to begin with. Last week had 3 for 26 on 4 targets against Tampa. He's had games of 8 receptions for 89 yards against the Eagles, 3 for 41 against the Giants, 47, 30, 22, 47, 52 to start the season before he got hurt. So I think this number is too low just as like a base for Eckler. You add in the great matchup, I think this is a very strong play.
That makes sense to me. And again, like to see those numbers that we were in on yesterday that haven't moved yet. Obviously, still good there with a guy like Goddard that you mentioned. But interesting take there on Eckler. No, he didn't quite come through for me. I played in the free DFS contest that we ran there on DraftKings. Didn't quite come through for me on wild card weekend, but I like the pick here on underdog. Anything else here from the NFL side?
Yeah, there are two other Chiefs that I'm pretty interested in. Okay. We have Marquise Brown projected at 51 receiving yards. We have DeAndre Hopkins projected at 33.1 receiving yards. So let's go to Hollywood Brown first. You can see he's at 42.5. That's where he opened. He's still there. I think this will go up. I am pretty confident that it's too low, so I definitely like the over 42.5. And let's see where Hopkins is now at. What the heck? Hopkins still at 29.5, so I think that's also solid. Good with both. I still like Pirine more than both of them, even at 9.5. And then a couple others I really like. Actually, you know what? I think the next best one is going to be this right here. Demarcus Robinson over 21.
Down a yard?
No, I think it's the exact same as yesterday. We had it at 22.5 last week.
Yep, that's right.
I think it opened at 21.5. This one also really strong. If I had to say my top three right now, it would be Robinson, Goddard, and Pirine. I do think Eckler's close. Both Brown and Zacchaeus are close. Probably Zacchaeus now is my preference, given the fact that DME is already going up by 5 yards. Mm-hmm. But man, like there's a lot that I'm also toying with. We've got CJ Stroud over 14.5 rushing yards. We've got AJ Brown over 69.5 receiving yards. We have longest rush for Saquon Barkley, 18.5, and Derrick Henry for 19.5. Both of those look good. Bateman over 38.5 receiving yards. So lots of stuff that I'm still toying with, and I'll have plenty of plays probably sometime this afternoon or evening for all of our subscribers. But I think these two work really well. Robinson thrives against single high and thrives against man coverage. Both of those Philly plays a ton of, so you got that working for him. And then the other thing is Philly has been just an atrocious matchup for every single position on every single team except wide receiver threes. It's very clear the wide receiver 3 on the Rams. So very good spot for Robinson to outperform his typical production. This is a really strong one.
Yeah, I like it. I do have one more NBA prop that I found on the blocks board that I want to talk through. I'm not totally convinced, but on the surface, it caught my eye. It's Alex Sarr, higher than 1.5 blocks. We're getting a 1.35x multiplier on that. Now, we do have him projected for just 1.41, but I was wondering if you had the matchup data handy for a team in Phoenix where we're not going to have Nurkic tonight. Nick Richards is not going to be active yet here with his new team. So, like, they could go a little bit smaller, which I think leans into more Alex Sarr minutes and less Jonas Valanciunas. He has 2 or more blocks in exactly half of his games here in his rookie year. What do you think about Sarr in terms of the matchup?
I think you mentioned the fact that we haven't projected at 1.4. Yeah. I like when there's a clear explanation for why we are underrating the matchup. Let me read the matchup numbers here for blocks by position, starting at point guard, going through power forward, negative 25%, negative 54%, negative 28%, negative 50%. This makes sense when you look at just the opponent blocks allowed per game. Oh, I just clicked on steals. Let me go to opponent blocks. Phoenix allows the 5th fewest blocks per game. So that's kind of the data that our model is using to make this projection. But then you look at centers, and it's actually plus 18%. So I do think we are under projecting Sarr's blocks here. I do think that at this multiplier, it's good. It's definitely the right side. I don't like it as much as some of the other stuff that we have. Like I definitely think these steals at 1.18 and 1.17 are better. But 1.35x is no joke of a multiplier. So I do think you found something pretty good here.
This to me feels like for our FTN fantasy subscribers, I think it was the guy who we were going back and forth with on some strategy talk yesterday in terms of the types of entries. And of course, you have your pinned note with all the math and explainers there. But you were discussing how you sometimes cycle through 6-pick plays if you've got like a core group of 4 picks and then some secondary options. To me, this Sarr blocks profiles as one of those secondary options that I'm going to mix into some 6-pick entries today.
I love that. I think you're exactly right on it. So let's throw that one in there for right now. You can also do some 8-pick plays, right? Like throw in Pirine or throw in Goddard, and now you've got an 8-pick play here. So
Yeah.
Definitely like that. Anything else, or you want to go over to the DFS side of things?
I think let's go to the DFS side of things real quick. Again, just 5 games here tonight on Thursday. We are still waiting on injury reports from the Rockets and from the Clippers, but I don't think we're going to see too many surprises off of those. Again, Kawhi is going to sit here on the second end of the back-to-back. You should get Nick Batum back up into high teens minutes. KPJ will probably rejoin this rotation, and you'll get elevated minutes for Chris Dunn, who I expect to get back into the starting lineup. Derek Jones Jr., Amir Coffey, and the like. If we're looking here by the GPP scores, you see Anthony Simons up top. And I think the Blazers as a whole make a lot of sense, even in a pace down matchup where they are certainly not the favorites, 7-point dogs here at home, 219.5 implied total. That is the lowest total of these 5 games, but the highest is 233. So like we don't have a giant pace difference here between this game and the rest of the slate. So I think some of these Blazers, right, I imagine if you sorted by ownership, we're going to see more ownership going to a guy like Scoot Henderson, who got into the starting lineup. I think he's up to 5,800 now. So Anthony Simons as an ownership pivot makes a lot of sense to me. And then Denny is doubtful, right? So that's why Scoot got into the starting lineup, but it solidifies the minutes on Toumani Camara, on Simons himself, on Shaedon Sharpe. And we're going to get Delano Banton in the regular rotation here tonight. He's min price. I think we have to consider Delano Banton. And if the slate started in 5 minutes, I would have shares. I think the field is also getting to a guy like Banton. He's actually 25% owned, so he's 4th most here in the morning run. So that's not a sneaky or hot take. But he is one of 2 very clear-cut strong value options to me at this point of the day. The other one being Jalen Williams. And like we are finally talking about Jalen with a Y Williams, J Will, as it were, because J Dub may start at center here tonight, as we saw him do frequently when Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren were both sidelined. Isaiah Hartenstein is out at least a week here. But with J Will healthy and considering the matchup, my money is on J Will getting the start, the true 5-man left on this roster, and at 3,300. Even if he doesn't start Alex, like that is going to be a strong value, but he's damn near a lock if he is getting the start at that price, because he is still a fine enough fantasy producer. And we don't have really anybody else in this slate from a value standpoint that reaches the tier of value that he's in right now, kind of standing alone. And you can see as the highest owned player on the slate, still pulling in a top 3 GPP score.
Yeah, it's funny how we just saw this the other day, but Oklahoma City and Cleveland, you look at this game, you think, oh man, those are 2 defensive juggernauts, but we're getting some really good GPP scores from them because everyone is thinking that way. These are also offensive juggernauts. So we're seeing just expected production, and people are kind of afraid of the game environment, and therefore they've been hearing the GPP scores. And then, as always, when Washington is on the slate, you're going to see their opponent near the top of the GPP scores. We've got 4 Phoenix guys, so min 1 Phoenix Sun I think makes a ton of sense. I even wouldn't be opposed to min 2 per lineup of these Suns going up against Washington.
Yeah, I mean, like, these guys are going to be popular for good reason, not just the matchup, but we just traded away Josh Okogie, and Bradley Beal is now out tonight. So, like, if you wanted to play Ryan Dunn, you can. I'm probably not, because I think he stinks from a fantasy perspective, but the minutes should be there. Grayson Allen is in play. You see him right there in the GPP scores. He's picking up 22% projected ownership. Guard forward eligible is very nice at 4,200 on this slate. 45 for a guy like Royce O'Neal. That also makes sense. And I think you can also consider a Mason Plumlee or an Oso Ighodaro with Nurkic out, with Nick Richards not ready to go yet. And then, of course, like Booker and Durant, and Durant homecoming, right, in Washington tonight, back in DC. So the Suns, I think, are going to be very, very strong chalk here tonight. We'll see what they do with their starting lineup. Talked about Phoenix, talked about Blazers, talked about Thunder. I mean, I think on the other side of that game against the Thunder, like with no true centers outside of J Will healthy, like those spend up Cavs guys do make some sense in tournaments. I'm probably not going overboard on them, but I think I would be targeting the front court more often than the guards in this matchup. Although, like, still mid 7Ks. Garland over on FanDuel makes a ton of sense to me, even in the tough matchup. But like Mobley and Jarrett Allen, probably not pairing those two guys because I could see clearly this game could go smaller. Yep. But I think those guys are in a good spot, even against a team like the Thunder. Let's see anything else. Anything else that's sticking out to you?
Not really. I do think there's a chance that we see ownership concentrate on some of these guys near the top of the GPP scores, but they're so strong right now, and the value is so strong in their projections that I think they'll remain positive GPP scores. So we'll just kind of have to monitor that throughout the day.
One thing I will say. To me, sorry, go ahead.
To me, this is huge. The separation that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has in the ceiling department is, for one thing, why his GPP score is so strong, but it's also like, I mean, it's not just the, almost 5 points ahead of Cade and almost 7 ahead of Durant. Notice there's another drop off after those guys. So I would say like you probably want at least one of Shai, Cade, and Durant so that you have access to the best ceilings on the slate. But I also wouldn't mind if you just said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going Shai.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and put in a call here this morning. Again, things will change. So if this assertion changes, I will let our subscribers know in the NBA DFS chat. But I think that Tyus Jones is maybe the best play on the slate right now. Because we have Bradley Beal out, like Monty Morris is still there. So he could certainly stay in that, 26-ish minute range. But I think in this matchup, we've got the upside for 30 plus once again, like we saw to really start the year, the first few months of the season. For a guy like Tyus, he's down to 4,300 because of that minutes volatility. You see that the model is picking up on him in the GPP scores as the fourth best option in terms of that metric, but just 13.5% projected ownership, 4,300, and a revenge spot. He just played for Washington last year. So I don't think Tyus Jones has too many bad feelings towards the Wizards organization because he got out of there. But it is an extra little cookie to dangle in front of a Tyus Jones play, which I think just on the surface makes all the sense in the world. And again, you see him projected for 26 DK points at 4,300. Best play on the slate right now, all things considered, especially that low teens ownership.
Yeah, I love the call. I think, at times we've seen that he can be a fantasy point per minute stud too. And if that were to happen, not only is he doing really well, but he's also then leveraging the 40% on Kevin Durant. So love that call. Definitely in on it.
I think that's about it for me here this morning. Just like quick spin over there on FanDuel. You see Ayton at 6K. Again, that makes a ton of sense for the reasons I mentioned earlier and how shorthanded they are in the front court. Still the GPP scores picking up on a ton of those center only guys. You've got Jay Will at just 4K. Mason Plumlee is there as well at 4,400. So like Jay Will, much less of a must play given the single center spot we have over there on FanDuel. Still strong, picking up almost 30% ownership over there. Scoot Henderson, 5,100. That's good chalk, man, if he's going to start and play 30 plus minutes, even against the Clippers, 6,400 for Shaedon Sharpe. So like some of this Portland chalk, even stronger, I think, over there on FanDuel. Again, just a reminder, just because somebody is high owned does not mean you have to fade them. Scoot Henderson, 5,100 over there, I think makes all the sense in the world. And Tyus Jones at 5K as well, 13% owned on FanDuel. Not as strong, especially relative to Scoot being there as well. But like, if I end up with a Tyus and Scoot pairing at point guard and fade some of those higher owned, higher projected guys like Shai, Jones and Scoot make a ton of sense as a cheap pairing there. And I think it would immediately get you different because I think, we've got Cade available as well. Like there are some attractive spend up point guard only options on FanDuel.
P. Mike in here saying almost had the big one yesterday. So good work there.
Come on, Amin. Come on, Excellency. Yeah. Get us back tonight.
Back tonight and back this weekend with more NFL stuff. Two Gun and I will have For the Millie for you guys tomorrow. Might even make it a free show this week. Haven't decided yet. So keep an eye out for that.
Show was last night, right? So people subs can go back and watch that.
Yes, they can. Yeah, that was live last night, but it's just as useful watching on replay. So go check out the matchup show on the FTN channel. And while you're there, subscribe to the channel, like this show, really helps us. And also just kind of an early heads up. Once NFL ends, we're going to start doing some maybe like giveaway stuff here on the Daily Dime, trying to grow this show. So keep that in mind. Make sure you guys are continuing to tune in. And we appreciate all of you for doing exactly that. We will catch you next time.